Open the Google Meet from this side. Okay, alright. Okay, alright. So today, we are going to start with our module 10, basic router configuration. So before that, if I've not give you salam, Assalamualaikum. And for today, this is what we are going through for our session. All right, we are going for our basic router configuration, so that we can have this router to connect our network to the outside network, right, to provide internet communication, right? So you will see what are the what we call as the basic, okay, router setting or configuration that you have to provide for the router. So these normally the names, okay, so that when you remotely connected to the device, or in this case the router, you know which router you are actually connected to. Okay, kalau semua nama sama je, so you might get confused because in the documentation you see that this router which is situated in level 1, for example, of the rack, and this is the router is referred as R1 rack number 2, something like that. And then when you connect to the network, connect to the router, it's only stated router. So you might become unsure of yourself whether you are connecting to the rack router or to some other router. Okay, so that's the purpose of giving the router a host name. Besides that, before you actually can do a remote connection, there are basic configuration that you have to do. Okay, that basic configuration must be through the connection of a console, okay, a console port, right? So that will be a direct connection to your router before you can actually establish. Sebabnya, you have to provide a setting, okay, password and everything to allow what we call a remote connection to the router to be established. Okay, so then beside configuring the what we call the basic router setting, you need to configure all the interface. Okay, when we configure the interface, you must also activate the interface itself. All right, this is because a router is a bit different from the switch. In terms of the physical, yes, there is also what we call a very obvious difference between a router and a switch. But in terms of the operation also, they are different. Okay, in the switch, the port is active once you provide a connection, but in the router, the port will be active. Port ni maksudnya interface lah ya, interface to the card. It will be active only when you uh, put it into no shut situation. Maksudnya command. Alright, meaning no shut tu you active that line. Okay, then the router interface will be on. Okay, unlike switch you just put in a new what we call UTP cable, you just plug into the port, it'll be active. Okay, you can see on the panel itself becomes from red, then it becomes amber, and then it turns to green. Okay, but not for the router. You can see this. Actually, I prepared the a topology here just for our session today, right? So you have a switch, a PC here, and then we have a router, right? So this router will allow not only what we call the switch to be connected to the device in this particular network, but also to this router, and then the router will be able to pass the data or the frame to another network that is interfaced by this router 0. Okay, all right. Okay, and you will see that this switch port is already green. Okay, but on this side, this is not yet green. Okay, it's come red, so meaning it's not active yet. So you need to do the configuration for this. Okay, so once we activate this interface at the router, you will find that this line will turn to green. Okay, so that is what we are going to do today. All right. Okay, so far any questions before we start with our packet tracer? Tak ada ya? Shall we start?
Yes, madam.
Okay, all right. Yeah. And so that we have a smooth transmission, yeah, for this packet tracer. I will close my camera. Okay. Kejap. Belum apa-apa dah terclose packet tracer. Aduh. Let me start my packet tracer dulu. Sekejap ya. Sudah. Tak save tadi. Let me get this thing first. Kalau apa, kalau dia share ni lambat sikit. Okay. Sekejap ya. I'll do this for a while. Give me 5 minutes. Less than 5 minutes. Macam mana boleh? Saya tak pergi buang pula topologi kan. Pandai betul. Okay. Alright. Okay. Hopefully get better. Okay. Nasib baik dia tak minta password lah apalah. Tak makan masa. Okay, let me share again the entire screen. Okay. Alright. Okay. Okay. Alright. Okay, so while we do the packet tracer, I want you to also to refer to the notes, yeah, to the PowerPoint. I'm not able to show both interface, okay, right now, because going to be tak apa-apa ni sangatlah nanti. Nampak tak? Okay tak? Let me open up the interface for this. Okay, hope everything went well. Okay, all right. So we will start. All right. Okay, if you look into the slide, all right, on the initial router setting, you will see that what we call as a basic router configurations are the names. Okay, and then remember we have to provide a password for our user exec mode and also our privilege mode. Okay, so this is something that you have to take note. All right, user exec mode is basically when you first enter the router interface. Okay, this is what we call the router interface, right? Not we are referring to the card, yeah. We are referring to this uh, terminal, okay, whereby we will do a configuration. So you will find that we will first name the router and then we will provide the password for the router, and then we will do what we call a password for our direct connection. Remember when we connect our laptop to the using the what we call the rollover cables, the blue one, the flat blue cables. I hope you have been to the lab and then you remember that there's one a flat blue cable. We call it a rollover cable ataupun we call it a console cable. Okay, and then you connect to the console port. All right, so in the router and also the switch, uh, you should be able to find the port that is labeled console, CON normally. Okay, so that is a console port. So you connect to the router. So when you connect that, right, you want the what we call the router to prompt for a password. Okay, so maksudnya dia dapat, walaupun dia dah establish the direct connection, we will, in order to secure our router, we will request for a password. So we will ask for a password there. Okay, we call it user exec mode. Okay, and then we will do a remote telnet. okay, ataupun SSH access. Alright, so this is through the internet. So you might have to assign your router with an IP address. Okay, so for that, okay, there's two method. Alright, this is using the UTP cable, and you can choose either to connect through what we call a telnet. Dah boleh dah refer refer to a telnet or a SSH. The difference between these, telnet, the communication will be plain text, okay, while the SSH, it will be encrypted, okay. And then in our configuration, remember when we save to the NVRAM, right? If the information is, especially the password, yeah, if not encrypted, so anyone that got the configuration should be able to see the password. So what we need to do is we need to secure our password through this encryption command. Okay, right? And then another one is for legal notification. Remember I told you, if you have not put this message, so therefore that you cannot prosecute any intruder. Because it's not stated in your policy, so you have to provide this so that it is aware that it's against uh, league the law, okay, to actually have access to this router. So you can provide this message, okay. All right, so how we are going to do for all of this basic router configuration. Okay, so we will start now. All right, okay, so here we have our router, and we have opened up the what we call the command prompt for you to put in your router configuration. Okay, you will find that some of the router configuration is not correctly written in this slide. Yeah, so please take note of that. Okay, so first one, what we need to do is we need to change our router. Okay, let's say in the physical topology, we have written that this router to be router 1. So, okay, so first thing what you need to do, you have to be in the privilege mode. Okay, so next thing what you need to do is you need to be in the configuration terminal. Okay, in order to input your configuration, you have to be in this mode. Okay, all right, then you'll be able to accept whatever command that you are inserting to the router. Okay, so we start with giving the name of to our router. So let's say router 1. All right, so once you enter this, you will see that the router has been assigned with a new name. Okay, so you can see the effect there. All right, next thing, we need to assign password for a person who wish to access the router. All right, so we put enable, okay, secret. So it is a practice, yeah, for the lab. You use these two password, yeah. One is the class, another one is the C-scope. Okay, so this is for to have access to the router itself. Okay, so the password is class. All right. Next, we have a password for our console connection. So it will be line, okay, console. Right, so this, because we have only one console port, so that's why it's console 0. Okay, then we put a password there. Okay, all right. So meaning we have done with this configuration. This is for direct connection. Next is going to be for our remote connection. Okay, remember, it's not going to be all of the time. The system admin will be at the uh, what we call the server room. Okay, let's say something happened at night, so definitely it is best to have a remote connection for that particular emergency. Okay, maintenance and also recovery process. Okay, so what we need to do is we have to provide a remote connection for this. If you have a question, yeah, you just type in your question in the command ya. So nanti saya ni lah. So you have this. And for the telnet and SSH communication, so you have line AVDY, and then you specify. Okay, basically we have about for the line, for the telnet kita ada 0 to 29. Okay, access. So normally we specify certain level telnet line for the system admin and then for the specialist. So kita akan separate kan lah, so kita tahu who are who. Alright, so we have this. We write a password for that. Okay. Okay, right. Next we have to provide a login. Okay, sorry, I missed out one login for the line console. Kakak nanti dia tak keluar login ya. So we will do that again. Okay, line console. Okay, then we just put login. Okay, sebab we miss out the login just now. Alright. Okay, for the in this case, if we don't do the transport input SSH or telnet, so definitely by default it will be a telnet. Okay, kalau you tengok on the slide here, on this slide, okay, we have transport input SSH or telnet. So if we don't specify anything, it will be by default telnet. Alright, so if we put transport import SSH, so therefore this remote connection will be based on SSH. Okay, boleh ya? Right? Okay. Next thing is we would like to encrypt our password. So we need to do that using the command service. Okay. This is not at the connection, so we must be out of this. So to be out of the config line mode, so you type in exit, okay, and then you encrypt the service, the password using the service password encryption, right? For this, you type in service, and then you have password, okay, and then you will find that you have hyphen there, okay? Please take note. Else you might have a problem in getting this command right. Okay, so please take note that please make an amendment. Okay, there's supposed to be a hyphen between password and encryption. Clear?
Clear.
Right? Okay, Amir tanya GNS3. Okay, boleh. Okay, boleh. Alright, so you find that kalau you tak ada this hyphen, you find that you have a problem with this command. Okay. Next thing is, remember we need to provide some message, okay, in order to prevent any intrusion, or when there is an intrusion, they are aware that this is wrong. Okay, so we need to provide a message for that. So it will be banner. You'll find that all these commands so far, they are identical to the commands that we've been using for our switch. Okay, they are identical to the switch, right? Regardless of it is a router or a switch, you find that all of these commands are identical. Okay, right. So I'm not going to type in all the message for the message of the day. So just put in a. Alright, so we have that. We can see whether it's working or not, right? So in order to save our configuration, we need to write copy running startup. Okay, so you can do that. Okay, so you just enter, so you'll be using the default file name. Okay, all right, so we have covered on the basic router configuration, which is when we talk about basic router configuration, the host name, okay, the password for uh, configuring the router, the password for accessing the router through what we call a console port, okay, the password for uh, accessing the router through a remote connection, in this case telnet, right? And then we have already encrypt our password. Okay, remember that we have encrypt our password, and then we have provide a banner. Okay, and then we copy this. If we have not done this, meaning in any case, let's say someone trip the wire for your router, and then your router becomes off, you will find that all this configuration will be lost. Okay, so in order to uh, make sure that in case you need to reboot your router and then have this configuration inside your router, so you need to copy this, meaning save this configuration to the startup file. So when the router needs to start again, okay, all the configuration is still there, that is used for the running. Okay, during running mode you be in the startup, so it just need to reload back the configuration. You don't have to configure it all over again. Okay, next we are going into interfacing the router interface. Okay, right, so what we will do for the router interface, remember, okay, let's have a look at our router here. You will find that your router, okay, this is your router. It will have normally router, they don't have a lot of interface. Okay, because they are interfacing the network rather than providing interfacing or interconnecting the device, unlike the switch itself. So the number of interface is not as much as switch. Okay, kalau switch dia ada dalam 24 ports, router normally 2, 3 port. Okay, alright. So we are going to see how we are going to uh, configure the router interface. Okay, alright. So I have connected this router. Okay, it's first G00 interface to the giga internet interface of the switch. So it gets a higher speed compared to the one here. This one is a fast Ethernet, so they are different in terms of the speed. This is about 100 megabits per second. This is going to be 1,000. Okay, from the gigabits internet. Right. So next thing we need to provide is the interface. Okay. So what are the interface command that you need to know for the router interface? It will be interfacing the, first you need to identify which interface that you are going to configure, right? And next is if possible you need to provide a description. Okay, this description must be follow whatever that you have put in your physical topology design, yeah, documentation, so that it sync together, right? And then the IP address, right? The IP address. So we have IPv4 and IPv6. So you have to specify. If it's IPv6, the command is a bit different. IPv6 IP address, okay? And then you must provide a subnet mask, okay? So in IPv6, it's going to be a prefix length, right? The prefix length tells you what is the size of the network ID, okay? Because in IPv6, you have 128 bits. So you need to specify out of this 128, sorry, bukan 126, 128 bit, how many bits belong to the network, okay? And then you have to provide a no shut, right? The no shut will actually activate the interface itself. Okay, so we are going to use the same command here, right? and then we will see what happened to our router interface facing the switch. Okay, there, yeah. All right. So going back to the mode itself, and then what we need to do is we need to go to the interface, right? Interface. So our interface is G0/0. Okay, as I told you, I've used the first interface of the router, and then we will put a description, okay, to this router. Right, we will say that default gateway, yeah, default gateway lah. Okay, next you will find that once you put you write the interface, so you are already in the interface configuration mode. Okay, config if, so this is interface. So next thing you write in the description, this is optional, but then this is very recommended for documentation purpose. Okay, and then you write in the IP address. Okay, IP address. In this case, we just take in what is the IP address given in our slide, which is 192.168.10.1. Okay, and then you have to specify the subnet mask. Okay, because the subnet mask will tell you out of this IP address which part belong to the address and which part is the host address. Okay, so that is the meaning of that subnet mask. And then we will write the IPv6 also. Okay, remember what we are doing here is what we call a static configuration. Okay, when we configure an IP address to a machine, uh, we refer it as a static configuration. If you don't require to specify this IP address, so therefore we call it a dynamic configuration, whereby you will rely on a DHCP server or DHCP services to assign an IP address to a machine. Okay, right? So IP address. So just follow in because you have not covered yet on the IP address. So IPv6, so we just follow through. Okay, how's the IP address? So you might find it is a bit intimidating, but then it's not that difficult. Okay, once you know the structure of this. Okay, we have this, and then we'll write the last node and the prefix. Okay, prefix. We do have the concept of prefix in the IPv4, right? Rather than writing the subnet mask in this manner, okay, we can use a prefix. But then when configuring the IPv4 IP address, we have to put the subnet mask. Okay, but we use the prefix for the IPv6 configuration. Okay, so please take note of the difference. So we define that out of the 128, 64-bit belongs to the network address. Okay, clear on that? Okay, next, remember we need to activate. If we have not activate this, it become red. So when we put no shut, right, you'll find that it will start to turn the turn to green. Okay, and then so you find that here what happened. Nampak? So this is something that you need to observe when you do a configuration, especially to a router. So you will see that basically you have established, okay, connection to your router. All right. Okay. So meaning we have completed configuring our interface. All right. So we can verify. So how do we verify our configuration? So we exit. Okay, once we exit, you can see here to verify. Okay, that's better. Okay, so we have done this. So to verify, what we need to do is use show IP interface brief. And you will notice that you will have to be outside the configuration mode. Okay, so you have to be outside the configuration mode for your show command. Okay, any show command, it will be have to be outside of the configuration. Okay, so this one, so we exit another one. So we are already exiting our configuration terminal. So now we are going to see our uh, interface, whether the configuration has been successfully implemented or not. Okay, all right. So since we only have configured one of the interface, so you will find that only one of the interface and has an IP address. Okay, so ch means show, right? And then you have IP, INT, okay, and then BR. Hopefully it works. Okay, so it's working. You find that you have two lines or two interface for your router. Okay, this router 1. Okay, we have configure 192.168.10.1. Okay, and everything is okay. Status is up, right? The protocol is up. Okay, but then we have not assigned this the other side, so that's why you will find that the status is administratively down and the protocol is down. Okay, so once you configure this, you will find that everything will be up. Okay, all right. Next thing, so when we say show IP interface, so you provide for every interface the IP address, right? And then we have, remember we configure for IPv6, so we would like to see on the IPv6 network. Okay, so kita ada IPv4 network, kita ada IPv6 network. So you have show for that IPv6. Okay, same thing. Okay, and you will see, okay, the IP address that we have typed in. Okay, and you find this, you might wonder why this IP address is appearing. Okay, so later on when we study on IPv6, you will understand why and where is this coming from. Okay, and where is this coming from. Okay, but for now, just accept this as it is. Okay, but then look on the second IPv6 address, which is the one that we have configured just now for our interface G00. Okay, clear, yeah? And you'll find that both status and protocol are up. Okay, all right. So you will see that you need to have a different show command for a different IP network. IPv4, a different command. IPv6 going to be a different command. It will not be together. Okay, all right. And then you will find that we have other useful command that you can see, right? For example, if you are not sure of your interface, how many interface your router has, so you can use this type of command, right? Then you will find that each of these show command have its differences. You can have a try. Okay, later on. I will not try it on this session. So just leave it to you guys to do the configuration, and then I will move straight away to configuring the default gateway. Okay, sebab show command ni just display lah, and you just need to know what's the difference between from one command to another command. Okay, yeah. Ah, this is one useful command which maybe you are not aware. So let me highlight this command to you. Okay, this is what we call a routing table for the router. Okay, so it helps the router to pass the frame as it comes. Let's say, especially when it get delivered from a switch. So what it will have to do to this frame. Okay, so what the router will do, it will refer to its routing table. So in order to view your routing table, you use the show IP route. Okay, okay, so we can do this before we proceed to our. But then we will not be able to see on the other side because we only configure one of our router interface. So we can do, what we can do is, let's see what we have. Okay, so we have show. Okay, all right. So these are the, what we call your reference table to see what is the meaning here. But then since we only configure one part of the interface, so this is what you will get in your routing table. Okay, this is what the router see. So meaning you have to tell the router. So how do you tell the router? By doing the configuration to the interface. Okay, so that the router are able to pass the frame. Whether to pass it out of from which interface, so that is through the configuration. So that's why the network engineer needs to configure the router so that the router can work. If this is not being configured to the router, you find the router is not able to deliver the incoming frame to the outgoing interface. Dia unlike switch. Switch dia is a bit intelligent in the sense of every frame yang sampai dia akan simpan the IP address of the incoming port. Okay, incoming port tu dia tengok apa MAC address yang masuk. What is the source MAC address. So dia akan simpan that information and then dia akan ingat which port dia masuk. Okay, but not a router. Okay, so you need to configure your router first. Right? Along the way, the router will learn from the, what we call the ARP. Okay, ARP. Tapi router is dia unlike switch. Okay, where switch it will propagate broadcast. Maksudnya when this PC require a broadcast, the switch will broadcast all the communication, but the router will not broadcast. Okay, router dia akan stop broadcast. So meaning kalau ada broadcast dalam network ni, it will only occur within this network, but it will not propagated to the other network. Okay, that is because it will be blocked by this router. Okay, so that is the function of the router itself. If the router is not able to block the broadcast, yeah, so a broadcast storm will be occurring in the network. Sebabnya dia akan propagate, satu router propagate broadcast, router tu broadcast lagi, propagate. That's why. So that's why router do not have the broadcast function. Okay, that's why the router does not have the broadcast function. Okay, all right. So once you configure your router, what happen is you will get these two information. One is the connected. Okay, you will see C as connected, and then another one is L. L is the link. Okay, link. Maksudnya dia directly connected. Okay, so this is IP address. That's why the link. And then this is connected, so it's providing the network. That's why the slash 24. Okay, say that the network is directly connected. Okay, and then the link, link ni dia punya link lah. That's why you will see that it is using the IP address that we have provide to it, 10.1 is directly connected. Okay, and so dia bagi tahu which is the interface, G0, 0. Okay, clear on that? So kalau kita ada dua interface configuration, you will find that you have two of this. One pair C and L is for all the interface that you have configured. If you have configure two interface, so you should have two pair of C and L. okay, entry in your routing information. Okay, all right. Okay, so now we are moving into the default gateway. Okay, in the default gateway, remember for all the when we have, let's say kita ada banyak lah ya. Just to differentiate between a local a local communication with a remote communication. Okay, that so in this case, when it's a local communication, meaning this PC0 will communicate to PC1, right? But then when there is a communication to another network, okay, so you might want to have to add in this sikit ya. Ini tambah sikit lah the network. And we have a switch, and then we have here. Let's say this PC is located on, sorry, not a PC, let's say a server. Okay, server is connected to another network. Okay, there is a purpose why we put separating the server in another network for security purpose. Okay, then kita connect juga lah. So you have this one here. Okay, right. So we have not configured this, that's why it's turning red. Yeah. Once we configure this, then it will turn to green. So we are not going to do that. But then I'm going to show to you that when it's a local communication, so you will find that the switch will pass to the PC1. But then if it's a remote communication, let's say this PC1 is requesting a file, so a file from this server. So what it will do, it will create what we call a remote communication. So when it's a remote communication, we need the switch to, rather than broadcast to all of these PC, okay, it will straight away send it to this router. Okay, so you need to configure what we call the default gateway. Okay, because this is going to pass to the router interface of R1, which is G000, and then G000 will pass it to G001 of itself, so that it will be sent to this network. Okay, let's say this is a network B. All right, in order to do that, to be established, so we need to configure our switch to know that this router is the default gateway. Right? Kenapa? Because when you do a manual configuration also, you will specify, okay, in your PC that what is the IP address, okay, what is the subnet mask, and also what is the default gateway. Okay, so that is a standard, what we call a configuration, static configuration for internet, for communication, okay, to be successful. Okay, so in order to do that, you have to, what we call here, a default gateway. Okay, so you need to understand the default gateway. So for our topology right now, okay, the default gateway for this network PC1 and PC0 is going to be G00, G00 for the network in, for the server is going to be, the default gateway will be the G001. Okay, because this is where it is connected to. All right, so what are the configuration for that is, remember we have to do it at the switch, because we are going to inform that when there is a remote communication, you need to send the data to the IP address of the default gateway. Okay, clear ya so far? Kalau nak configure memang kena. Yes. Ami Daniel, untuk configure IPv6 memang kena wajib letak IPv6. Yes. Okay, if let's say you are going to ping using IPv6 IP address, so you need to configure that. Okay, this is for, remember, previously when everything is using the IPv4 protocol, so you don't really have to configure on IPv6. But then please remember, in the internet as a whole, you might find that some of the device are working, what we call can only work with IPv4, that some are the device that can work in IPv4 and IPv6. So to be coexist, you need to have these two IP address. Okay, you will find that later on when you study IPv6, okay, IPv6 is not as difficult as IPv4. In fact, subnetting in IPv6 is much kata straightforward. That is because the size of the IPv6 is very large, so it's uh, makes the subnetting much easier to be performed. Okay, unlike in IPv4 where we have to use what we call VLSN, right? Variable length for our subnet. Okay, because we are very restricted with our host bit. Okay, we are very restricted with our host bit, and then kita nak create banyak subnet, and we are borrowing our host bit. So dia sebab tu kita kena buat variable. Tapi in IPv6 it's much easier. Later on you akan you find that you will like IPv6 much better. Although in terms of the concept, some of the concept of IPv4 dia dah outphase dah in IP due to the size of IPv6. Okay, in fact nak dapatkan nak generate IP address pun is much easier. Although dia punya cara tu ada banyak lah. Okay, ada banyak cara nak dapatkan IP address. Macam IP address ni, okay, normally you can get it from where you design and then you assign, ataupun you can design and assign it to your DHCP. So DHCP yang akan provide, will assign to the PC as they are requested on loan basis lah, dynamic. Mungkin hari ni .1, mungkin besok .10, okay, dia akan issue to the PC. So dia ada expiry dia lah. Okay, but in the IPv6, the concept is a bit different lah. Okay, dia only partial information will be given and then it's up to the PC to generate the rest of the IP address. Okay, tapi saya tak nak kupas in detail lah, nanti you all pening. Alright, so we will go into configuring the IP address of the router interface as our IP default gateway to a switch. So this is what we are going to do today. Okay, so you will see that in the explanation dia ada bagi tahulah macam mana nak sampai ke sini, so what will happen. Alright, so it wants the switch to send it to the router here, to this interface, okay, rather than it broadcast to everyone, right? Sebab the switch also we would like to limit broadcast communication as much as possible, because when you broadcast, then the rest of the port tu will be in the listening mode rather than in transmitting mode. Okay, in transmitting mode. So you will see here it says to reach PC3, PC1 address the packet with IPv4 address of PC3, but okay, IP address dia memang guna PC3, but okay, the switch will send it to the default gateway, which is the G00 interface of R1. So that's why the default gateway is the interface that is facing the source. Okay, the source address. So that will be the default gateway of the source. Alright, so kalau nanti nak reply balik PC3 walaupun dia ada IP address of PC1, okay, the switch will send it to the G001 because G001 is the default gateway for this 192.168.11.0 network. Okay, sebab dia facing ni. Di default gateway dia bukan sebelah sini ya, yang berdekatan. Okay, alright. So what you need to do is, you will see here at the switch, you must have a default gateway address configure. Okay, so that it can manage remotely the other network. Okay, so using the, okay, rename the switch and everything, and then the VLAN. Okay, so just straight away IP default gateway. Okay, remember the hyphen. So that is on the default gateway. So this is to be done on the switch itself. Nanti boleh buatlah sendiri. Kat sini. So here. So you just need to go enable and config. Okay. So any question? I'm going to end today's session a bit early because I have a meeting at 9:30. Oh. But we still have time. I welcome if you have any questions. Sorry for that I'm not able to give you a very close what we call meaning access on this all the commands. Okay, so some of the command I'm giving to ask you. I have to ask you to actually do that, and then if you have any query or you are lost between the commands, you can always contact me. Okay, I hope you do have my number. For the Shakla, I'm not a bit worried, but then for the Perlis, you can reach me. So I'm sharing with you my number. Okay, so you can always ask me if related to today's, if you are having problem when you use your packet tracer and do the exercise or follow through the command that we have in this module, which is module 10 on the basic router configuration. Okay, so a basic router configuration, in conclusion, it should have the ID of the router itself. You must configure the connection, the console, the telnet. Okay, and then you must have a password also uh, for the access to your config terminal, because you need to block that. Okay, to secure also that particular access. Okay, sebab dia ada dua access. Satu access connection, satu lagi access to configure. Okay, access to configure can modify the configuration of a router. So that's why you kena secure the access. So that is considered as a security to the router. Another security element that you have to add to the router is encrypting your password. Tu nampak tak? Ada berapa dah? Nak configure, nak secure you punya configuration mode, secure you punya access ada dua, console and then telnet, and then secure your password. So ada 4 element of security you have apply to the router. Okay, so kalau dia tanya you macam mana you secure, so these are the basic secure lagi. Kalau you nak tambah secure lagi, you can add in securing the connection to be in the SSH. So dia encrypt lah rather than plain text. So dah 5 dah kat situ. Faham ya? The concept? So ada the network, the what we call the security element is also being imposed or being configured to the router. Although it may seems that it is a basic. So maksudnya security element ni considered as still basic ya. Maksudnya basic tu penting. Okay, when it comes to basic, it's not meaning that you can what we call just discard aje lah kan. But the basic is very important because basic is fundamental. Alright, so that's why securing the router is very fundamental. Okay. Alright, next once you know, then for router, once the basic, which is what we call just now, all the parameters that you have set. Next thing is the interface. Okay, interface. Interface of the router itself. Okay, you need to configure and you need to activate. Okay, you need to provide no shut. Okay, so if you see that your connection to the router is red color, so therefore yes, port security belum lagi. Kita tak masuk. Port security normally we do at the switch level ya Ami, not at the router. Sebabnya kenapa? Kalau dekat router you cocok saja kabel, you not be able to have a communication sebab you tak activate dia lagi. Tapi switch, you cocok a cable, it straight away will entertain you. So that's why you apply port security at the switch level, not at the router level. Kalau security in router, it will be on the access control list. Dia akan tengok pada IP tu dia. So kita akan permit dia ikut IP. Kalau kita boleh permit atau block ikut IP, that is for router security. For the switch, is going to be port security. Maksudnya kita akan port yang kita tak guna, contoh ya, kita katakanlah dalam topology ni kita guna port 1 sampai port 12. Port 13 ke atas kita akan takkan guna. Dalam organisation kita tak ada orang lagi, 12 orang je satu department tu, contoh ya. So we need to do port security whereby kita akan shut down all the remaining ports. So maksudnya kalau ada orang dia pergi connect to all the ports yang kita dah provide the port security, dia takkan ada connection lah. Tu konsep dia on the port security. Ataupun kita boleh buat list of biasanya kita akan buat sedikit MAC address. So maksudnya kalau bukan MAC address yang biasa-biasa, lain macam MAC address dia, so kita tahu kita akan the switch will not entertain that communication. Faham ya? That one you will learn in 532. 532, yes. Cisco 2. Cisco 2 does more element of securing the network, especially due to the switch. Sebab switch punya konsep tu, dia lebih terbuka, bukan macam router. Router ni dia konsep dia tertutup sikit. Sebab you kena configure dia punya interface. Router ni kita tak configure setiap port ni. Betul tak? Kita tak configure. Kita connect saja PC kita configure pada PC. So switch configuration are more on managing the network and also securing the network. Sebab tu kita ada VLAN punya konsep, port security. VLAN pun is what we call a security element juga. It'll be very interesting. Okay, dia ada banyak step dia that you will learn in 532 as the traffic in the inter-network. Okay, kita nak to itself. Sebab dia yang akan discover the network. Don't forget to sign in your attendance. Shah Alam dah ada attendance tak? Duk remind selalu tapi selalulah lupa nak.
Tak ada.
Tak ada eh? Saya buka. Any other question? So today, macam tadi lah saya kata, configure the interface and then configure the default gateway. That is very important. Okay, default gateway you kena kenal. And for every network, where is the default gateway? Which one is the default gateway? Because if you configure the wrong default gateway, your network will not be able to have remote communication. Tu dia. Okay, the effect of wrongly configuring your default gateway. So you takkan dapat remote connection lah. Sebab tu you kena kenal you punya apa what we call your default gateway. Any question? Saya letak classroom je lah sebab I'm opening this on a different platform. Alright, so far we have covered everything, and then what is important that when you have configured you verify your whether you have done the apa not. Okay, tu dia. So macam ni kalau you first time you see user access verification, this is your what we call you punya password lah. Dia dah yang tadi you request kan. You dah configure kan. So this is what you need to know. So dalam configuration terminal you have what we call macam tadi global configuration. Okay, there are things that you consider as global configuration. Global configuration tu maksudnya dia punya command tu, dia punya prompt tu it will be something like this. Okay, dia punya hash sahaja. So that is a global. And then kalau line is when you have when we do the line console configuration, okay, you will see something like this. Ni line. Okay, ini global. Alamak, dia nak masuk juga. Okay, ni global. Okay, so this is what we call global configuration. This is what we call line configuration. And then for the router interface, this is what we call interface configuration. Berbeza. So that is how you differentiate. So when you see a command, let's say you source out a command, you tengok dia punya prompt dia macam mana. If it's just a hash, so therefore you know that you have to be in a global punya command. So you tengok you dekat mana. Okay, dekat you punya ni. Let's say here, you dekat mana. You just type in, then you boleh tengok you dekat mana. Okay, jadi dekat switch pun sama juga. Same thing. Whatever command, some of the commands are. Hello, Assalamualaikum. Oh, Azrul, saya nak just finish off my class. Okay. Okay. Okay, class. I have to make a move. Dah kena call dah tu. Meeting kan dekat lah tu. Aduh, kat Pitar. Jauh. Any question? Attendance saya dah up kan? Any other question? Anything you can to contact me. Last. I'm not sure when I'll be in Arau. Dulu pernah lah juga pergi Arau. But in the near future, I'm not sure. Maybe you all pun degree nanti. Maybe during your convo lah kot. Ataupun maybe Arau nak buat trip ke Shah Alam. Ataupun Shah Alam nak buat trip dekat apa? Nak buat trip dekat ke Arau pun. That is even better. Betul tak?
Betul.
Since kita dah buat collaborative kan, mesti nak jumpa kan. But maybe some other days kan, not this semester, maybe the following semester. Why not? Kan? Right, so I have to make a move. Thank you very much. See you when I see you. Trip to yelah Perlis kata trip to Shah Alam best. Kalau Shah Alam kata trip to Arau best. Okay, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum. Sorry I have to leave in a hurry. Okay. Assalamualaikum.
Ya.
Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam.